What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. In today's episode, we're going to the lake. Alright guys, so again, I didn't want to end the video on the last video last week because I wanted it done in 2 episodes, but it was just getting kind of lengthy. There was just so much to do. So I didn't want to leave all the excitement for the very end and make a video that was going to be 45 minutes long. So that's the reason I kind of X'd everything and went with the 3rd episode. So that's okay. I did have a little bit of boo-boo. For some reason, the insert fell out of this. I'll have to have that repaired. Not a big deal. Not worried about that right now going to the lake. But there is some things that we have to do. Keep in mind, this is a rebuilt motor, so we have to break it in. I don't necessarily want to break it in the lake and be left in the middle of the lake if something's to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and run this thing on the hose for like 15-20 minutes, give it some revs, kind of work it in a little bit before we bring it to the lake. That way I know that we're safe and we're good when we get on the water. Okay, so there should be nothing different with this setup than there is with the factory Yamaha. Everything is all original, same Yamaha tube that connects. Everything should work pretty much the same principle. I did go ahead and put 3.5 gallons inside the tank you see right here. That's pre-mixed because, again, we're not sure if the injectors, oil injectors, are working right or not. I'm going to have to suck gas, obviously, all the way back through that. I'll get this thing going and running here a little bit, and I'll show you how it works out. Definitely a 2-smoker. They generally have a high idle out of the water. It's pretty typical. I don't know if it's how high it is. I don't have a tack right now. You can probably hardly hear me. Alright, so a couple revs and it did bring down the RPMs. I guess it just had to settle. Again, it's probably hard to hear me, but I got another 10 minutes to run on this thing and then we're going to the lake. And that right there is the reason you always water test it before you go out. Now there's a little bit of oil from what leaked before underneath the ski. That's not a big deal, but you can see we got a little stream coming out right there. And it's pretty warm, so we got something that popped off. I got to make sure that's tightened down before we go out. Alright guys, and you can see right there, that's our culprit, so something popped off right there. We need to get it back on. It looks like maybe the line had split, so let's get it fixed. Alright guys, so it's been running for like 10 minutes. It's running really well. There's no overheating. Everything's nice and cold. Smoke's still coming out like it's supposed to, and plenty of water, so I think it's about ready for the lake test. Alright guys, so I think I finally have all the cooling situated. Now here's the deal. So this originally on the Sea-Doo is the incoming area for your water to cool, basically from the jet pump. And then right here actually was capped off with a fitting to supply water. So technically speaking, either one as an intake should work for water. I shouldn't have to switch these, but this one initially when you're running it and the water is blocked off. The problem I'm running into is because this is so free-flowing right here, essentially the water is going straight in and out the head, and the water that's coming through the tube down here and going to the exhaust really doesn't have enough pressure because there's no back pressure here. So to give you an idea again, this hose comes in, it runs to here and here, okay? Then this hose here tees in with one that's underneath the exhaust down there and goes out the side to the piston. The other 2 ones are, this is the full intake and this is the full exhaust. What I'm doing to slow down this is printing, or 3D printing, a restrictor plate that will go in just like this right here, as you'll see. And that should restrict, that's an 8mm hole, that should be just enough restriction to see water flowing down this tube. As long as we have water flowing down this tube, this head pipe's cooling will be okay. So with that said, let me do one last test. We should be able to hit the lake. Alright, so time to test it. I'm not going to run it right now so you guys can actually hear and see. I'm just going to turn on the water. So we're going to flip the water on. We'll watch for water to come shooting through here. I can hear it's running out of the back right now, just barely. It's coming out of the piston on the side. Come on, water. And there it is, guys. We should be good. I'm going to go ahead and fire it up right now. We're going to see exactly how it runs. Alright guys, so here we are at the lake now. It's time to drop this thing in the water and test it out. First I'm going to start it up, make sure it starts okay, then I'll drop it in the water. We'll make sure that there's no water intrusion and that there's no problem with resistance being the actual drive is now underwater. And if we're good there, we'll bring it out in the water. One thing I do want to say is, when I compare this thing, I am not comparing it to when it was a supercharged 200 plus horsepower beast. This thing actually was headed for the trash, guys. This was going to be a total part out through our partner Jet Motorsports, and what would have happened is the hull would have got cut up and it would have been brought to the dump. So no matter what happens, whether this thing is a speed demon, which I doubt it's going to be, or it is simply just a parter around, either way is going to be a better life than it would have lived. Keep that in mind. Now let's not talk expectations, but more or less kind of guesses of what this thing's going to do. The original ski, the 94 XP, was never a speed demon. Probably 45 miles an hour, all the ones I've ever rode with perfect compression and a perfect drive. Internet would tell you 50, but that's definitely not true, not unless it was a 787. They just didn't do it. In 96, they had a bigger pump, so it just is more of a 45 mile an hour ski. We have two handicaps in this particular moment right here. One is that I have throttle only going to 90%, so that's going to limit us a little bit. The second part of that is that our compression's right around 135 and 138. Perfect new ski is 150, so we're down a little bit, but it's still good compression. However, those will represent against our numbers. Now, as far as the hull compared to the 94 hull, this is a heavier ski, obviously, but it is also longer. Oftentimes, a longer ski will get better speed overall, depending on the hull style, than it will on the shorter ski. Another thing to keep in mind will be the jet pump. Now, this is going to bigger pump than the 94 XP had, and what that's going to translate to, or should translate to, is that there's going to be probably worse bottom end getting up, but if it does have the power to get going, this thing will have a little bit better top end. My guess, this thing's gonna go around 34 to 36 miles an hour. That's my guess. Again, if we're lucky, we'll hit 40, but I'm thinking 34 to 36. Let's get in the water, let's see what it does. All right guys, we are now in the water. It's a huge dock, I don't like it. I'm gonna have to do some kind of orangutan stuff to get to it, but I'm gonna get to it now. We're gonna get it fired up, and let's see if it takes on any water. Alright guys, so it is running a little bit rough. I'm not sure why. I'm still going to attempt it, but however, I'm going to switch over to like a GoPro, and you guys know the sound quality kind of sucks on those, and I don't know much about the video quality either because I never use it, and I don't have the clear case that's supposed to protect and make it float, so if you guys don't see video from this point forward, you'll know why. Alright guys, we're off. We're moving right now 4 miles per hour, simply just idling. Sounds actually really good in the water though. I'm not going to go far because I don't know yet. I'm just going to putt around here in the no wake zone, and hopefully I don't break down because I don't want to paddle all the way back. It just doesn't sound fun. But it feels smooth. It's not really struggling or anything. I'm barely touching the throttle. Moving 5, 6, 7 miles an hour. Not a whole lot. We're just going to continue to putt around here for a minute, and then I'll start taking off. Alright guys, we're going to start going out a little bit deeper, just past these buoys here. The buoys are what allows us to get over 5 miles an hour, even though I'm going 6, don't arrest me. Not my choice, it's just, it's a cruiser at idle. So hey, it is what it is. Still feels good. I have a warning blinking on the dash. And, well, it has nothing to do with anything, that's just because we don't have a bunch of sensors hooked up to the actual Yamaha motor. What are you going to do about that? Rooster tail's going up the way it's supposed to. So we know that we're pumping water, that's good. I'm out here now. I'm going to give it a little bit of gas. We're going 15 right now, 17, 18, 20. Not quite planed out yet. 22. Again, we'll have to see GPS exactly what the actual speed is. I want to know GPS, not just by a cheap spinning wheel. I'm gonna bring it back in, we'll go for another round. We'll hit it as hard as it'll go. Alright guys, going back out for our second run. Waiting to get past these buoys. We're just coasting literally. I don't even touch the gas. It seems to run between 3 and 5 miles an hour just idle. Again, it's really smooth. I'm really pretty happy with how good this ski feels. I can tell you that, this is not a review obviously of a modded ski, but I can tell you that Yamahas now are definitely, or at least in 2009, are a heck of a lot better than the 90s models. Even the late 90s, they were like a hollow hull. This one's really solid feeling. I haven't hit any bumps. You can see it's pretty flat out, but it's time to give this thing some gas and see how she rips. Alright guys, so back here at the dock right now, everything's running well. It's just not getting up to top RPMs. We've got the 23 miles an hour. I haven't looked at GPS yet, but the pipe is still cold. That means that it's cooling, it's pumping water, it's doing what it has to do. It's just not getting full revs. That could be partially due, like I told you, the bottom end's going to struggle with the big impeller that it's got on the back of that thing. So it could be a lot of different things. It also could be that I don't have the air filter on it right now. It's getting too much air. There's a lot of different things that it could be. It could be that I didn't really clean the carbs because, again, I just had it running on the hose, and I never really maxed out the RPM. So we're going to learn now. I'm going to bring it back out one more time, and we'll see if we can get top speed if we can out of it. All right, so 23 miles an hour wasn't terrible, guys. It wasn't what I expected, but definitely lower than I expected. But something obviously is wrong. So I think for the first run, that's okay. We're going to head back to the shop now. We're going to do some research. I actually never looked at the jet pump in this thing. I don't know if it's any good or not. So there's some things to look at. It's not getting full revs, whether that be it's dragging on the jet pump and I have to realign the motor, or it's just simply the carb's gunked up, I didn't clean it good enough, or whatever it is. I got to figure out what that is, because the key to faster is more RPMs, and we're going to figure that out. So let's go back to the shop and check it out. All right, well, we're back at the shop / home, and it's time to look at this ski. Now, again, the top speed in this thing was about 23 miles an hour. I saw 24, but we'll just say 23 because I think that's all it's showing on the camera. So we'll go with 23. Less than I expected, but again, not necessarily upsetting because, well, essentially this was a free ski, so I'm not too concerned about it. But what I do want to do is figure out why the RPMs aren't getting all the way up like I had already said. The key to get this thing going faster is getting your full RPM. Because I don't have a tack on this thing, I don't know what the RPMs were, or at least a working one. It sounded about 44 to 4,500 RPMs, I would say. And obviously it needs to be up more like, I think it's like 6,700 to 7,000 is what I thought the top end of a 657 was. So first thing I want to do is, I haven't looked at the jet pump since we installed it, just to make sure that the motor isn't digging into it and that it's not getting in contact with it, which would obviously hold it back from being full RPMs. And then I need to look at the carburetor and figure out exactly maybe if something is going on with that. So let's take a look at it. All right, guys, so moving forward, we have a new regulator to throw in there. I'm going to put that in real quick. That won't take long. Obviously, that goes in the E-box right there. And then we're going to kind of jack around with the actual carburetor itself. I'm contemplating disconnecting the oil lines because I don't think they're working correctly. And also, we had some adjusting to do on the carb. The RPMs are kind of running off on their own, and so obviously that is something of a concern. And I really want to try to focus on getting this thing to fully rev at 100% and not 90 as far as opening up the butterflies. So I'll work on those things real quick, and we'll see if it makes any difference. Alright guys, so as of right now, it is revving out really well. Like a dirt bike. I mean, it revs up, so I don't think the carburetor really is an issue. It feels like it's a little bit of a drag when the water hits, but it feels, maybe it's in my head, but it feels like that regulator really did make a difference. And I can't find anything else that would be a problem. Compression is now at, after getting worn in, is that like 135 and like just under 130. That's not terrible. It's not new, but again, it's not bad at all. So it should be pulling it, and again, it's hitting about 6,700-ish RPMs. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and drop it back in the water. And if for some reason it still has resistance, then I'm going to guess that it's something to do with the pitch on the impeller. I don't know for sure, but that's about all it could be, because if it's got no load on it and it's ripping, it's definitely something to do with putting it on load. So we're going to do one last shot. Regardless of what it comes out, that's what it comes out. That's what the ski is, and then it'll be done. So let's get back out to the lake. Oh, and just for the reference, I'm going to be 3D printing something to hold this in so I can actually see my tack, so we're not guessing when we're on the water. Alright guys, so we are back at the lake for round 2, which is also going to be the final round. Right now, out of the water, it's currently revving up to 6,700 RPMs. It's time to go ahead and drop this thing in the water and see exactly what it gets. Are we getting our RPMs, or are we not? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. This was a free ski for the most part, and if it is a 20-mile-an-hour ski, it's a 20-mile-an-hour ski. If it's a 40-mile-an-hour ski, it's a 40-mile-an-hour ski. Doesn't matter, the build is over. It's time to figure out what this thing's gonna do. Alright guys, so just as I suspected, we're not getting over 4,000 RPMs. That's pretty much right on the money. Let's take off. Let's see exactly what it does. I don't know if you can see that. It's right under, it's probably about 3,700 RPMs. So we're not getting really where we need to be, and I kind of assume that. I don't know what's holding it back. Something clearly is. But it is what it is. That's what this ski is. It's a 21-mile-an-hour ski. Alright guys, so that is a wrap for our free jet ski build. I'm personally leaning towards the carbs that are holding it back because they were really bad condition. All I did was replace some of the diaphragms in them. So I would say that's more than likely the problem. It goes from not being dirt bike-like to kind of sluggish revving even out of the water, and so something's going on with it. But this would be a great build for somebody trying to figure out that little problem, or maybe somebody comment below and tell me exactly what the problem is. Nonetheless, that's the end of this little series here right now until we have more content come up, maybe at another date. As long as we have it, we'll have content. That said, I hope you guys like the content. If you didn't already, click that subscribe button for more content coming out, and I'll see you guys on the next one.